This is System IMF. The IMF challenges were a series of 4 different challenges, all on the same 2 boxes. So I'm going to start the box while I talk about the challenges. There's 4 of them, and they're kind of your traditional get root on a box sort of challenge. They split them into 4 different parts. And overall, it was a lot of fun. It was so fun that I didn't take the best notes possible. So this might not be my cleanest walkthrough, but I'll try to do my best. But like I said, it was a very fun set of challenges. They give us some flavor text. The infamous motherfluckers. I'm guessing this is reference to I think it's the International Monetary Fund. I don't know much about that hack, but I do know it was hacked at some point. So maybe it's referring to that. But they've been hired to take down a guy named Dave, blah, 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 bunch of stuff. So we're getting a job as at a development startup. We're going to be working with him, keep our eyes open. Our name is Bob. We're given SSH. And then this is the first flag. So, it's not a real challenge. If we go to the first real challenge, it says tracking bugs can be tedious if you're not equipped with the right tools, of course. Cool. So like I said, there's 2 different boxes. We have only SSH onto one of them, specifically this one. I'm going to copy these up and put them in my notes. Oops. And let's get started. So like I said, the first thing we can do is SSH to the box and start poking around. And it is the one that ends in a 3. So first thing we do is we SSH here. Our username was Bob. Let me get the port 12291. We are Bob at this box. And the password is password. Cool. And let me make this a little bit bigger. Right off the bat, we get this welcome.txt, so we can cat that out. Oops. Welcome. Basically, it says that there's a bug tracker called utrack, and it's running on this host on port 8080, but it's only a local host. So we need to figure out a way to do that. We're given a set of credentials to this local box, dev, and then the password. It says something about there's a code base. We don't actually end up caring about that, but there is a backup server which we will care about. They also give us a hint, something about, the first backup is a bit messed up. It's a bit larger than the rest, hinting that there's probably juicy information in the first backup. So we know we're eventually going to have to do with that. Something about utrack configuration. They also say at some point that there's an admin account. There's an admin account on utrack, and that's pretty much it. So it seems like step 1, we're given credentials, we need to check out utrack. Utrack, from just Googling around, it looks like a Jira replacement. It's just sort of an issue tracker. And like I said, we're going to find out there's already 3 people in this group. There's us, there's Bob, there's Dave, and there's an admin. So first we need to connect to this issue tracker. Like I said, it's running on localhost on this box, so we can't just connect to this IP address on port 8080. Instead, first thing we need to do is set up an SSH tunnel. So if you're not familiar with SSH tunnels, basically they're just a way to kind of redirect traffic through SSH. And so what we can do is we can say SSH L 8080 localhost 8080 Bob at, let me just write this down before I talk about it. On this one. On port 12291. Cool. So what this is going to do is this is port forwarding. Any traffic that goes onto localhost of my Mac will be redirected to port 8080 of this remote machine. And so basically we can connect a we're going to open the browser on port 8080 locally, and it'll just direct all the traffic here, and so we can see this utrack instance. So we'll set it up. Password. And we're set. So now we should be able to go to localhost here. And here it is. It's running utrack. So like I said, we're actually connecting to that remote machine. Just thankfully, SSH is doing all the magic for us. Oh, I'm already logged in as admin. Eventually, we'll get admin on this. That was saved over from previously. But like I said, they gave us the credentials to do a login. So let's log in with those as dev. We'll copy this. Username is dev. Let me make this bigger. And we log in with the password. Oops, did not work. Never, not now. Cool, and now we're here. So like I said, it's kind of like Jira, if you've used Jira before. Basically, you just track issues and work and stuff like that. There's a single project, this ST project, and we can see right off the bat there's 5 different tickets. So we can open up all the tickets and start doing some digging. First, we have a ticket from admin, username display glitch, username glitches out. It doesn't seem like anything too exciting. So we'll get rid of that. But we saw that one thing that is interesting is that there's an account called admin. So we'll remember that for later. This one was created by dev, which is us, and it says there's an RCE in our app. It's happening here, so very interesting. Port 8081, upload a file. This file looks like a base64, so we can just base64 to code this real quick. And we can see it's a bash reverse shell. So interesting. So apparently there's a file and then a bash reverse shell. Then it says, Dave, we need to access the backup logs. So somewhere there's backup logs and there's this PHP file, which we are going to check out in a second. Then there's this want to grab a beer. Everyone's working hard. There's dev, admin, nothing too exciting. And then the very last one has a flag. So this was flag 1. So all we had to do for the first one was do an SSH tunnel and then just kind of search around this utrack instance. Cool. For step 2, we get some flavor text. It says a woman's weapon. Historically considered a woman's weapon. Pretty sure that's not true and anyone can exploit it. So a woman's weapon is poison. Not really sure where that's from, but I guess it's a saying. And it says when you understand what to exploit, try running it locally first, as a failed attempt would make further attempts impossible. So we're going to be doing some sort of poisoning. If we remember, on one of these issues, we saw a PHP file, and it is common to do log poisoning in PHP. So that sounds interesting. So we can check out this file. It's called log checker. Oh, it's not found. Whoops. Let's download it again. And let's see if it's on desktop now. There we go. Log checker. Thankfully, very simple PHP script. It's going to get the file. If it's set, it's going to include the file. And if it's not, it's going to show us the backup log. Cool. So we should be able to access it here. It is curl, and it is the other host. So let's go back to notes. This host right here, HTTP. This should be it. And cool, these are the backup logs. Like it said, so we can see the first one is a lot bigger than the rest, which is what one of our notes said. But this is copying the files copying the file var log backup.log. As we can see, we can directly pass this file parameter into an include. So this is obviously very dangerous. So we can find a file on disk that's interesting. It'll execute arbitrary PHP code. There's no shells already on disk, but we can do a log poisoning attack where we inject PHP into some parameter such that it'll be saved to logs. And then as long as it has those like PHP opening tags and closing tags like this, it'll be executed as PHP when we include the log file here. So that's easy enough. This is the command I ended up using. So we can search around the box first. So like you can grab Etsy password. Let me copy these over. 109962. So all of our commands work. So if we wanted Etsy password, we can read any file off of disk, and we can see, there's this Dave user and a root user. But like I said, eventually we'll find the log file. I think this is it, var log nginx access log. We can see there's not too much going on. We can see so far 2 files have been requested. So we've requested the root, and we also just recently requested Etsy password. So what we're going to do next is we're going to supply a user agent header such that the payload of the user agent header, it is actually a shell in PHP. So specifically this. So we're going to make a curl request with user agent PHP system get command. And so that way it appears in this log, and when we include the log, it'll execute whatever the command parameter is. So let's inject this. You have to be careful with this. I was forgetting the slash before the $sign for a while, and it wasn't including this get parameter for some reason, so got to make sure everything's escaped correctly. But let's curl the box. Cool, now that file should exist there. And so if we go here, file is that, and command is equal to ls, we should get some response, and there we go. We see it's going to be in the logs, so we made the logs, and this is normally where the user agent would be, but instead it says index and index.php. So cool, we now have command injection on this box through these logs. All right, this is not a very persistent shell, and it's kind of frustrating to use. So next step would be to spawn a remote shell so that we have an easier way to kind of interact with this box. So to do that, let's spawn up a second terminal. Let me log on. Is it this one? No, wrong port. We want port 12291. And we're 3. Oops. And the password was password. Cool. And we want to netcat listen k, we'll say port 1337. All right, so we have a listener, and we'll be using that in a second. And we need a, was it shell? Here. This is some PHP shell I found online. I just copied it, put it into this file. You just need to change these two things. And so what we're going to do, the goal is we're going to move some PHP code over to the box, and then we're gonna, this will call out to this netcat port, listening on port 1337 on this box, so that we'll have a nice kind of terminal way to interact with the backup server. First, we need to update the IP address in here. So this is the callback box, which will be a 3. Where's shell? This one right here. To get this on the box, it's a little bit tricky. What I ended up doing is I took all this and I base64 encoded it. So we'll go to base64, we'll go to encode, we'll take our payload, we'll drop it in here, encode, copy here. And then I ended up just echoing the base64 contents into a temp directory and then doing a base64 decode on the remote machine. So we can do echo plus, because since this is a URL, every space is a plus, you just need to be careful with encoding. We echo it out. Then we're going to, I guess we actually just do the base64 decoding here. Base64 plus minus D, decoding, pipe to temp, and then we'll call it shell. We'll hit enter, and hopefully everything worked. We can actually print it out, so we can do ls plus temp and see if there's anything in there. It'll be up here, unfortunately. We see there's a file called shell there, so we did successfully write a file called shell. Cool. We could even cat it out if we wanted to make sure it still had the correct contents. So we'll go cat temp shell, and let's take a little look up, and we can see this looks like a PHP shell. So cool, we have a PHP shell there. Next we need to do a chmod so that it's executable. So we'll do chmod plus 777, very secure, temp shell. Cool. And then at this point, I think we can just execute it. Since it's a PHP file, we can just use the PHP file inclusion. So we'll do temp shell, we'll include it, and you can see that some input happened down here. So now we have a nice clean, oops, let's clean this up a little bit, a nice clean shell to use. Actually, we'll just bring this up to the front. Cool. So at this point, we're supposed to enumerate the box. I got stuck here for a while. There's a tool called Limpies you can use that does a lot of good enumeration for you. I missed it at first, but it turns out that there were pseudo positions. I'm kind of frustrated at myself that I didn't check this first. I was looking for like set UID binaries and stuff. But basically, you can do sudo-l to see what pseudo permissions you have. And and I should also add that we are the www data user that just can't really do much on the box. But they're allowed to sudo as the user backup and run rsync. That's interesting. And if we look at some point you would have noticed while going through the root directory, there is a folder called backup that we're not allowed to read, but obviously the backup user is allowed to read and write into this directory. So most likely there's something interesting in that backup folder. So like I said, we're allowed to call sudo as the backup user, oops, when we execute the rsync command. So what we're going to do is sudo user backup. So sudo isn't super user do, it's actually switch user do. So we're switching to user backup. Then we're going to run rsync. We're going to chmod 777, and we're going to copy the file, and we want to do it recursively from backup to, let's say, temp. So this will copy the backup folder as the user backup, chmod at 777, and move it into temp, if I did this command correctly. Skipping directory backup. Nope. Maybe I need to do backup star. Let me check my notes real quick. Oh, maybe it's lowercase r. Whoops. And lowercase r, backup. There we go. Cool. All right, now we're there. Sorry, I don't know what uppercase r is, but I guess it was lowercase r. So we're going to do lsla, see what we have. Thankfully, everything is readable by us, and we can see we have a bunch of utrack backups, which is good. And there's also a flag.txt, so we can cat that out. And so this is our next flag. Not only humans can be poisoned. Sweet. So obviously we're going to come back to that stuff. Next, let's look at the next flavor text. It says admin, admin. I already looked there, didn't I? I wish there was a bigger hint for this challenge. I guess we kind of know where we're going to be going, but it is what it is. So we can look at the backup.shell script. Some interesting stuff in here. It's not too much. It kind of does what we expect. It's going to copy out some files from utrack, and it's going to zip them, and it's going to put it in the logs. So what was important for this one is it also mentioned earlier that the first backup was going to be much larger than the rest. If we look here, yeah, these two, this backup I did LSTLA, and this sorts by timestamp. We can see that this one, these were made at the same time, but this one has a very distinct size compared to the other ones. The flavor text said it should be larger, so I actually opened up a ticket with the admin staff, and they said no, there was just a mistake. It's actually smaller. I think he said he switched, or they switched up the backup file, but this is specifically the file we want. So we're going to copy this out. We're going to move it from the backup folder to the regular folder so that we can then SCP it to the Mac so we can actually investigate. So we can copy this. Thankfully, we still have that curl, so we can actually just curl this file out and download it. So we want temp backup utrack. We're going to do output to backup.zip, let's say. Cool. Now we have backup.zip. From here, we can then, don't think we need this one anymore. No. Cool. We're going to exit out of this. Let's move to the folder we want, system, IMF. All right. Now we can SCP, so we're going to do secure copy protocol, where specifically we want the Bob at, what host is this? DIN3. I think it's capital P for port on SCP. And we want home backup.zip, and we want to copy it here. And password. Sweet. So now we have backup.zip. We took it from the backup machine, moved it to the dev machine as part of the challenge infrastructure, and now it's on the Mac. So we can unzip this, backup.zip, and it'll go into this utrack folder. At this point, I loaded it into Visual Studio Code, and you can see I have a couple different versions with the different file sizes. If you just do a global search for password, eventually you'll come across this thing called root password, and it says, it was right here, this is a very secure password, bundle root password. The root on on utracker is, not YouTube, is admin. So this is, I guess, the admin password. It also says admin password right here. So we can take this, go back to the utrack, and we will log out. We're going to log in as admin, and there's the password, log in, and it worked. So we are now admin on utracker, which is what the challenge kind of hinted at. You know, we want admin. So I spent quite a bit of time searching around utrack, trying to figure out what we're really supposed to be doing. Eventually, I realized that we're supposed to be getting shell on the box, and this utracker is actually run as Dave. So it seems that maybe we're just trying to get Dave's credentials, or log in as Dave. So to get shell on the box, you can search around for CVEs or issues with utracker, since it's just like, you know, open source software. And eventually you'll find an article by HeroCTF that talks about how you can exploit these notification templates. So if we go here, then email, and then this, we're able to change the content here, and it'll automatically execute. And we can do template injection here. So as an example, we can do 1+1. This one's not executing though. Which one did I do? Maybe it was this one. Yeah, this one's auto-updating. 1+1. Let's save changes. And there we go. We can see we get the number 2 here. So we have template injection. Like I said, there's a bunch of articles online, or at least one article online that shows you how to actually get shell. I got it from this HeroCTF article. And basically we're just going to copy this in, and we should be able to just start executing arbitrary commands. And you can see we're executing the ID command, And there we go. We can see we're user ID Dave. So super exciting. At this step, it'd be nice you can start poking around. Thankfully, we already have access to the box because Bob can see most, and there really wasn't that much exciting stuff happening as Bob because we're Bob here. But we can see there is a directory owned by Dave here. And if we look at it, we can see we don't have read or write access to the home directories as the user Bob. I mean, Bob can see their own directory, but they can't see Dave's directory. So it makes sense that we might want to poke around Dave's. Instead of trying to get shell here, I think since this was the only folder we're really interested in, I ended up just doing a change chmods recursive 777 home Dave. Let's save this and refresh. And at this point, we can do another LSLA, and we can see now we have rewrite execute permissions into Dave's folder. So we can change directory into home Dave, see what Dave's been up to, and we get our next flag.txt. And there we go, plain text password and still bit much altit? My leet speak is a little off, I guess. Didn't it? I don't know. Wow, this is embarrassing. Anyways, cool, that was the next flag. IMF 4, put the pass behind, one more step to go. There were other files in here. There's this random file.txt.encrypted. If we take a look at all files, there's a bash history file in here. Where is it? Right here. So we can cat that out, and we can see what Dave's been up to. So Dave is writing out using Vim to write some random file. He's zipping a random file, doing some VPS stuff. Then he's going to SCP this note that says send to buyer. Interesting. Oh no, he's sending the random file to the buyer, and then he's encrypting this random file using OpenSSL. So we just need to reverse it. They give us the key. They're using CBC. The salt presumably is already in the encrypted file. So we should be set to decrypt. So it's OpenSSL, AES 256, CBC, salt. I think we need a decryption. I could be wrong. I might need to look it up in a second. Then random file, and we'll say random.plaintext. Yeah, maybe it worked. Random.plaintext. And that was it. So the last step was definitely the easiest. And here we go. It says little history lesson for you. So I'm guessing this is related to some previous hack, maybe the International Monetary Fund hack. Amazing set of challenges. It was a lot of fun, a lot of digging. If there was an easier way to approach any of these steps, please let me know. I don't really do system challenges too much, so always happy to learn. Anyways, cheers.